In the last video, we looked at the worst sequels that almost ruined their series. But sometimes, a game can start as a complete disaster and still rise from the ashes. These are the greatest comeback stories in gaming history. Cyberpunk 2077. We have to start with the most famous redemption story of the decade. When Cyberpunk 2077 launched, it wasn't just a bad game. It was a technical catastrophe. It was so broken on consoles that Sony literally pulled it from the PlayStation Store. We're talking about flying cars, NPCs T-posing in the streets, and crashes every 30 minutes. For a while, it looked like the legendary CD Projekt Red had destroyed their reputation forever. But they didn't run away. Over the next few years, they released patch after patch, fixing the AI, the police system, and the technical performance. The turning point was the 2.0 update and the Phantom Liberty expansion. They didn't just fix the bugs, they rebuilt the game's core systems. They added a new skill tree, revamped vehicle combat, and delivered a story that finally matched the hype. Today, Night City is a masterpiece of atmosphere and storytelling. It went from a cautionary tale about overhyping to one of the best open-world RPGs ever made. It's a testament to what happens when a studio actually listens to the fans and puts in the work to finish what they started. Assassin's Creed Unity. On Tuesday, we talked about Unity as a disaster. And it was. The no-face glitches and falling through the floor made it a laughingstock in 2014. But if you play Assassin's Creed Unity in 2026, you're playing a completely different game. Once the technical nightmares were patched out, fans realized that Ubisoft had actually built one of the most ambitious games in the series. The parkour in Unity is still widely considered the best in the entire franchise. It's fluid, weightful, and stylish in a way the newer RPG entries just aren't. Paris is arguably the most detailed city Ubisoft has ever built, with massive crowds and interior environments that feel truly next level. By fixing the performance issues, the developers allowed the game's best features, like the black box assassination missions, to finally shine. It went from a meme-worthy failure to a cult classic that many hardcore fans now point to as the last true assassin game. It's a rare case where the game was actually ahead of its time, and the hardware just needed a few years to catch up to the vision. Star Wars Battlefront 2. At launch, Star Wars Battlefront 2 was the face of corporate greed. It triggered government investigations into loot boxes and held the record for the most downvoted comment in Reddit history. The progression system was designed to force you to spend money just to play as iconic characters like Darth Vader. It felt like a betrayal of every Star Wars fan on the planet. But then, DICE did something incredible. They completely removed the pay-to-win elements and gutted the loot box system. They spent the next few years dropping massive free content updates, adding the Clone Wars, new heroes like Obi-Wan and Anakin, and the epic Capital Supremacy mode. They turned a hollow, greedy shell of a game into the ultimate Star Wars sandbox. By the time they finished support, the game was packed with content and had a thriving, happy community. It proved that even the biggest PR disaster in gaming history can be turned around if the developers prioritize the players over the microtransactions. It's a tragedy they stopped support, but the game is now a shining example of a successful redemption arc. No Man's Sky. There is no list of comebacks without No Man's Sky. When this game launched in 2016, the backlash was legendary. People felt lied to. The infinite universe felt empty, and features like multiplayer were completely missing. Hello Games became the most hated studio in the industry overnight. But instead of making excuses or closing their doors, they went silent and started working. For nearly a decade, they have released massive free expansions that added everything fans wanted, and then some. They added base building, VR support, massive space fleets, mechs, and actual multiplayer. They turned a lonely exploration game into a deep survival crafting epic with an infinite amount of things to do. The best part? They never charged a single cent for any of it. No DLC, no microtransactions, just pure dedication to the fans. No Man's Sky is now the gold standard for how to handle a bad launch. It's a game that genuinely fulfilled every promise it ever made, and then kept going. It's a beautiful, infinite journey that shows passion and persistence can beat even the loudest internet hate.
Fallout 76. We roasted Fallout 76 on Tuesday for its broken, lonely launch. It was a Fallout game with no people to talk to and no choices to make. But Bethesda didn't let the fire die out. They spent years fixing the servers, and most importantly, they released the Wastelanders update. This changed everything. By adding human NPCs, dialogue trees, and actual factions, they brought the soul back to the Wasteland. Suddenly, the world didn't feel like a ghost town anymore. You could actually roleplay again. They continued to add new map expansions, seasonal events, and deep building mechanics that allowed players to create some of the most creative bases I've ever seen. The community for Fallout 76 is now one of the kindest and most helpful in all of gaming. While it will never be a perfect game, it has transformed into a legitimate Fallout experience that you can enjoy with your friends. It went from a buggy experiment that everyone wanted to forget to a consistent, fun live service game that actually respects the lore of the franchise. Final Fantasy XIV. Finally, we have the king of all comebacks. The original version of Final Fantasy XIV was so bad that Square Enix didn't just patch it, they literally blew it up. The game was clunky, boring, and technically broken. So the developers did something unprecedented. They wrote a story where a moon crashed into the world, destroying the game, and then they shut the servers down. They spent years rebuilding the entire game from scratch, calling it A Realm Reborn. It was a massive gamble that paid off. Today, FFX 14 is arguably the greatest MMORPG on the planet. It has a story that rivals the best single-player games, an incredible soundtrack, and a community of millions. It's the ultimate example of a developer admitting total failure and having the courage to start over. It taught the industry that if you truly care about your legacy, you don't just fix a mistake, you evolve past it. It's the most dramatic phoenix rising from the ashes story in the history of the medium, and it's the perfect way to end our list of comeback kings.